as high profile as King. Even more stressful. The 2010 movie, The King's Speech, starring Colin Firth, chronicles Elizabeth's father's relationship with his speech therapist, Lionel Logue, who helped him gain the confidence to deliver major speeches during the war. Elizabeth's grandfather, King George V, was known as an austere, severe father with his own children. But he adored Elizabeth, and she lovingly called him Grandpa England. Elizabeth had trouble pronouncing Elizabeth as a child, and it initially came out as Tillibet, and then finally she settled on Lilibet, which stuck. Her family called her this for the rest of her life. Her grandson, Prince Harry, and his wife, Meghan Markle, would name their daughter Lilibet in 2021 in honor of the Queen. Elizabeth was schooled by her nanny and private tutors at home, mainly studying French, English, and art history. In 1930, Elizabeth's only sibling, Margaret Rose, was born 4 years after Elizabeth. Elizabeth wasn't really expected to become queen at the time of her birth, but circumstances changed when her uncle, King Edward VIII, abdicated the throne in 1936 to marry American divorcee Wallis Simpson. At the time, divorce was scandalous, and Wallis was twice divorced, and she was American. Edward gave up his throne to marry Wallis, thus making Elizabeth's father, Bertie, the king. Bertie took the name King George VI. With that, Elizabeth was then next in line for the throne. She was only 10 years old. Elizabeth's father ended up passing away in February 1952, which then made Elizabeth the Queen of England. Before she became queen, Elizabeth was obviously groomed for the role. In 1940, at 14 years old, and in the midst of World War II, Elizabeth and Margaret were living at the safer Windsor Castle as London's Buckingham Palace was being bombed. She gave her first radio broadcast in 1940, and it was aimed at British children who had been evacuated from mainland Britain to safer places across the globe, mainly North America like Canada. It's been said that the actual true intention of that broadcast was to try to influence America into entering the war. Pearl Harbor had not yet occurred. In 1943, Elizabeth undertook her first solo public engagement on a visit to the Grenadier Guards. In February 1945, she was appointed an honorary second subaltern in the Auxiliary Territorial Service. She trained and worked as a driver and mechanic, and was given the rank of honorary junior commander, which is the female equivalent of captain. At the end of World War II, Prince Philip is credited with helping to modernize the monarchy. In 1953, when the Queen was coronated, it was largely his idea that the ancient coronation ceremony be broadcast on television, which was a new medium then. Traditionalists objected, but he prevailed and it was televised, which signified that the monarchy was slowly but surely, still slowly but surely, was starting to move with the times, which was necessary for its survival. Elizabeth's coronation gown was embroidered with floral emblems of the Commonwealth countries. In 1953, Elizabeth and Philip went on a tour of Commonwealth countries, a 7-month around-the-world journey. Elizabeth undertook the first royal walkabout, where a member of the royal family meets ordinary members of the public. She did this in 1970 during a tour of New Zealand and Australia. Just gonna take a sip of tea here. Figured that's appropriate when we're talking about something so British. In the 1960s and 1970s, many former British colonies gained independence from Britain and transitioned towards self-government, which marked a big change for the monarchy because Elizabeth was now head of state of less countries than previous monarchs. Elizabeth was the first British monarch to visit a communist country when she visited Yugoslavia in 1972. Obviously, the British monarch is the head of state. They're a constitutional monarch. They don't have any political power in a policy sense, really. But they are head of state, in charge of the ceremonial and diplomatic roles largely. Elizabeth's first prime minister was Winston Churchill, and her last prime minister, who she met just 2 days before her death, was Liz Truss, who is the current prime minister. The first woman prime minister of Britain was Margaret Thatcher, who had her premiership during the 80s, during Elizabeth's reign. Elizabeth met every U.S. president during her reign, from Harry Truman to Joe Biden, but she never met with LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. That's interesting. I'll have to look that up as to why. The British monarch, as a constitutional monarch, one without real legislative power, and the ceremonial head of state, is supposed to be politically neutral. Some prime minister meets with the Queen practically every day to discuss matters of state. I remember watching an interview with Tony Blair recently. Tony Blair, the former prime minister, Elizabeth was an animal lover, particularly of horses and dogs. She was a pet parent to nearly 30 corgi dogs over her lifetime, and had 4 dogs at the time of her passing, who now live with family. In June 2022, Elizabeth celebrated her Platinum Jubilee to mark 70 years on the throne. She had surpassed her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria's, length of reign, which was 64 years. Tomorrow is the Queen's funeral, her state funeral, and I read just a little bit ago that it's supposed to be the largest assembly of world leaders in one place ever, which is incredible to think. So, that is it for the random facts about Queen Elizabeth II. May she rest in peace. I have been fascinated by British royalty since I was a little kid. I remember getting up in the morning really early, like at 5-6 a.m. with my grandma. I was like 4 years old when Prince Charles and Princess Diana got married, and we watched the royal wedding on a TV with dials on it. I mean, that's like so ancient. But, and both of my grandmothers bought tabloids like the Enquirer and Star magazine when I was a kid, and I remember curling up by the heat vent with warm air blowing on me in the winter and eating tater tots and reading tabloids, reading all the royal gossip as a kid. And then as I got older, I became more interested in the monarchy as in a historical sense, and in a political role too, as to what the monarch does as head of state in a constitutional monarchy. I majored in political science, so it's interesting to me. So certainly Elizabeth was not perfect. Some things that have happened recently I don't agree with some things that she has done, but we won't get into that just yet. But overall, I definitely see her as someone I admire. Granted, I didn't know her personally, so you never really know someone. I'm always reluctant to say, to speak too highly of some political figures or public figures, because they have such a tendency to let us down, particularly in the U.S., I think. But one thing that led my admiration for the Queen to soar was her coronavirus speech in April 2020. I know lots of people who live in Canada and other Commonwealth nations who think the monarchy is ridiculous and it's not worth it and they need to abolish it. And I respect that opinion. I don't really have any skin in this because I'm American and I'm observing this from afar.